Iko Nini. So mwaka ni 2026 now. Of course, this is the year that's supposed to push us as Kenya closer to being Singapore. And the guy in the forefront, he come to history of Singapore, of course, the president, William Ruto. And there's something that I've been saying, that him succeeding is good for all of us. But sometimes I feel like the president's priorities zinakuwaga really twisted. And the reason why I'm saying that is right now, if you had to ask me, what the number one killer hapa Kenya is, I'd say it's road accidents. Najua like road accidents zimekuwa zikidedisha wa Kenya wengi sana. But somehow the president is thinking about narcotics. And I'm sorry to say, but narcotics, ukiangalia like other countries, you'll find out like narcotics are not a big problem in Kenya. Kenya shida yetu, the problem that we need to be solving right now to save a lot of lives ni story na road safety and road accidents. But the president, kama kawaida, very misplaced priorities. Wacha tusikize.
A paramilitary special force will be formed and deployed to the Anti-Narcotics Unit as the government intensifies the war against drug barons and alcohol cartels in the country. During a multi-agency security meeting at State House right here in Nairobi, President William Ruto resolved to formulate a legal framework within 10 days to strengthen coordination, enforcement and accountability across government departments. As Seth Olale now reports, President Ruto also directed the establishment of rehabilitation centers in all the 47 counties.
So one thing lazima ujue juu yangu, I'm someone who comes from a family that has history of addiction. And mi ni mse moja yule mufikiriaga that most probably I'm genetically predisposed to addiction. And that's one of the reasons why I stay away from it. So I know that addiction is a very big problem. But pia naangaliaga realities za Kenya. And if you are to ask me right now, the biggest problem that needs not even a task force but needs action right now would be road accidents. Like every day nikisoma gazeti kuna wasa wamededi. If it's not a family, if it's not what. But nikiangalia history ya anti-narcotics na story ya alcohol abuse, all I see is some level of religiosity. Najua like something that this is supposed to appeal to the Kenyan, especially female voter, who has seen, of course, the way alcohol were going to break families down. So yes, it's something that we need to fight, but is it the most urgent problem right now? Wacha tuendelee.
Details on formation of the new anti-narcotics SWAT team were revealed during a multi-agency security meeting chaired by President William Ruto at State House, Nairobi, attended by Interior Cabinet Secretary Kipchumba Murkomen, Principal Secretary Raymond Omolo, Inspector General of Police Douglas Kanja, Deputy Inspectors General Eliud Langat and Gilbert Masengeli, DCI Mohamed Amin, Nakada Chairman Stephen Nairobi, and CEO Anthony Omerikwa, and KEB's Managing Director Esther Ngari. Inspector General of Police Douglas Kanja says a paramilitary special force has been identified for deployment to the Anti-Narcotics Unit with resources already provided for their training.
So hii kitu nezataka kujua like nini imehappen, because pia another thing tukiangalia kitu kama paramilitary, we'd have to start thinking of countries like akina Mexico. Unajua the countries where hii kitu waga ina lead to violence, then kuna kuwa na like shootouts kwa streets, na kuna kuwa Kenya tumefika hiyo level where we need even a paramilitary. Maybe mimi ndo na downplay hii shida, na nezataka kujua sana like maybe kuna ishi place kama Mombasa where kuna iskaj. Is it this bad that we need paramilitary? And is it this urgent that we need to put all this effort into that? Because I feel like the effort we need to put right now, today and every day for the rest of this year, this story traffic accidents, because at some point they have to stop. And the only way that they need to stop is for someone to be actively involved. I remember kuna msali share like a video, I don't know why I didn't retweet it, but ilikuwa video ya hiyo yellow line, alafu na cheki like basi imekuja hii side, alafu inapitana na lori kidogo hivi na trailer. And that's what we need to handle. Najua like the amount of lives, because like that one bus has like 60 lives attached hapo. Yes, stories za addiction ni shida, but niambie time hapa Kenya tushasikia like addiction mededisha 60 in one spot. Utapata ni hard sana. So si downplay, but pia na downplay because there is a bigger issue at hand. But tuendelee.
As part of tightening the noose for drug barons, the Office of the Attorney General, in coordination with the Ministry of Interior, will formulate a legal framework within the next 10 days aimed at disrupting drug trafficking networks and related organized crime. The head of state further directed the establishment of rehabilitation centers in all 47 counties, with the National Authority for the Campaign Against Alcohol and Drug Abuse tasked with ensuring that the facilities are fully operational and accessible.
So katu nizatengeneza 47 rehabilitation centers. And poleni national kishikisha hizi shida mbili. That means pia tunaweza tengeneza 47 centers za kudeal na trauma za accidents, najua, like strictly that, you know, like, cause to me hiyo shida, like every day nikicheki news na cheki hii kitu ili happen nakuka majuzi kuna ile accident ya Karai ili happen, alafu niko na cheki news that it was one family and everyone ended up like our totally dead will come from one family. So to me this is such a big problem, the fact that the president even never mentions it. Shachiki, like come watch Iko Nini long enough my chiki niki complain nikisema that my problem is I never see the president talking about this. Like basi imejaa watu watadedi na president atatokea tu kusema tunadid kuongeza barabara. Hizi barabara hata tuziongeze ngapi? The only thing that it's going to do is just embolden people who love overspeeding, but it's not going to solve the problem. Nacheki fala napenda ku overspeed akipiga kona, but ata overspeed akipiga kona cause ana feel like slow down inaonyesha yesi driver, so lazima akanyage mafuta ndiye akaeni driver.
Meanwhile, 8 Kenya Defence Forces soldiers denied charges of trafficking methamphetamine valued for more than 192 million shillings. The suspects are accused of being found in possession of varying quantities of the drug. They were detained at Shimolatewa prisons to await the determination of the bail application.
So yeah, so kuna history ya drugs, and yes, I'll keep saying this because kuna sana sama na downplay. Yes, na downplay to a certain level because na try kuangalia like the level of urgency. Because kiangaliaga place kama like US for example, place ile drug abuse na kuaga high sana, utaona like wase wako kwa streets like wamelala kabisa, and the reason behind that ni hiyo level of addiction huko ni high kabisa. But kikam to place kama Kenya unapata gani kitu ina affect a few families, it does not affect as many, because unachiketa hiyo paramilitary. I don't think the paramilitary they are talking about is going to target watu wa changa. Haitakuwa ikitarget watu wa changa, itakuwa ikitarget watu wa mihadarati, watu wa vitu hizo hard drugs. And hizo, sorry to say, but Kenya si shida bigi vile for example maju. So I don't know, but so yeah, that's one of the priorities that the president has. And if you had to ask me, I still say it has an element of religiosity like attached to it, where the president anataka kuonyesha that unajua ana protect, especially because women complain sana vile alcohol inaendelea ku break down families. So that makes sense. So it's a problem that we need to solve, but I feel like right now we have a more urgent problem. And the more urgent problem is we need to keep Kenyans safe on the streets, and we need to keep Kenyans safe on the highways, and we need to reach a level where by if people are traveling long distance, they don't have to have prayers before and ikue. Shawambiaga zile zangu za ocha, nikiendaga ocha nasikiaga madha ameniombea, alafu akimaliza Yesu Kristo akifika vizuri tutapako jina yako, tutasifu wewe. And I check, and that should not be normal. Like getting on the highway should not be as risky as it is in Kenya. Na Kenya inakuaga like ile ukifika huko zile za damn nimefika. That was something. And talking of safety, of course another thing that has been making headlines hii wiki ilikuwa ni story ya the collapsed building. It happen izima side the South Sea. And finally walipata the last body. This is close to like a week after, because it was from the second to, okay, so maybe it's around maybe 5 days. Yes, 5 days after. So wacha tusikize
Lands Cabinet Secretary Alice Wahome is tonight blaming Nairobi County for illegally approving extra floors on the collapsed South Sea building, calling it gross negligence. CS Wahome warned county officials that the contractor and the other officers involved that they will carry their cross when investigations are complete. The warning comes moments after the body of the second security guard trapped in the rubble was recovered, ending days of grueling recovery operations. Willie Lusige was there.
Nearly a week after 12-story building illegally extended to 16 floors collapsed in South Sea, Nairobi, the second body was retrieved on Wednesday, marking the end of a long and painful recovery mission.
I've managed to recover another unidentified male adult from the collapsed structure. With this recovery, the two suspected victims have now been accounted for.
The government says although the operations are complete, the site will remain sealed off and under tight security as investigations continue. Authorities say the final report will be released to the public once completed.
So, hii story of course unikatsia, the fact that hii place sasa tuko saa hizi kuna vile hata hatuwezi tumia hiyo njia. So, like imetu disrupt sana. So, saa hizi inabidi kutumia like very long routes going to short places. So unapata hata bei za mauba na zote zime increase just because one road imefungwa. On top of that unapata like a lot of businesses around hapo kwa shopping center zote zimefungwa because there's no access to your place. So it's affecting like a whole economy of a whole place, and it's really messed up because if you to ask me, yes, hapa utasikia like the CS akiwa we are going to take action, but I'm sure the main people, the main culprits who are like the owner of the building, they are going to get away with it. Even the county officials, tuta make some noise, alafu tuta fade out, especially considering that waswamededi. Don't forget, Kenya, ethnicity inakuwaga very important. Waswamededi, if I'm not wrong, are two Somalis. So for how long will that remain in something that tunafikiria juu yake? That's number one. Watu wamededi ni two Somalis. The perpetrators, like the developers to contractor pia ni Somali. So wanaweza decide, let's just solve this on a community level. Familia itulie nini. And with that, what happens is we end up in a situation whereby the buildings don't get safer. So, but tuendelee.
Upon receipt of the report, we must ensure that we have every important detail to enable us hold some people accountable. There are people who will have to carry the responsibility and the burden of punishment. Ndio wawe pia funzo ya wale wengine.
CS Wahome blamed Nairobi County, saying it illegally allowed the project to proceed by approving 4 additional floors without following mandatory structural integrity and quality assurance procedures, in breach of both county and national regulations.
The county did the last put the last nail on the, coffin, because they approved 4 other floors when the building is being completed. That's not how we work.
She added that beyond the contractor and construction professionals, county officials who sanctioned the illegal expansion will also be held accountable.
So nacheki, the county officials, because history of county officials misbehaving imekuwa very common, because this is the quickest way to riches. Now kuna time iko nasemekana there was this county official who had like around 650 million frozen. Msa alikuwa na work at city council, and this guy had a salary of like 50,000 shillings a month. Na alikuwa na 650 million shillings kwa account, and he still used to work every single day for the county. That's how much money you can make. So you can try and imagine those people. You unleash them and you put them in the streets, and they're supposed to approve buildings. And they know that if this building, for example, is supposed to be 12 floors, and these people want to go to 16 floors, they're like, you know what, you can just add. Alafu unapataga hii game pia ni a game of probabilities, where you'll find a building that's unstable ends up surviving. Najua iko unstable, but maybe inaangukia ingine, inalalia ingine, so inajishikilia vile. Niko na like yule architect anaitwa Waburiri alikuwa anatuambia the fact that as long as building like in the urban centers hii moja ikilalia ingine, it's okay. So if you end up in such a situation where a few unstable buildings end up surviving, these guys get even more emboldened. And what do? They end up just taking money and putting lives at risk. So I'll be following up on this story, and I highly doubt that anyone significant is going to go down. Why? Because this has happened before. And if you were to ask me to name any contractor that has ever gone to jail, or any county official that has ever gone to jail after all these collapsed buildings that we've seen, because the collapsed building ya watu wawili, this is like low numbers. We've had much higher numbers and no one went anywhere. The only thing ile tunashinda tukisema kwa about e-building, the fact that at least chuo zikuwa open, and e-building ikuanguka time like hiyo Kongoni primary for example iko open. Try kuimagine watu wadogo wakipita hapo, what would have happened? Ingekuwa like catastrophic kabisa. But wacha tuendelee na hizi vitisho zile, according to me ni empty.
And those approval by counties, they may want to defend them, but that is an area that we shall tell the public what happened. Nasikia hakuna mambo hapo ambayo ilifanyika ndio approval ipeanwe.
Leaders who visited the scene to mourn the two guards, one of whom has already been laid to rest, called for strict regulation of high-rise buildings in Nairobi, a comprehensive audit of all tall structures in the city, and action against officials found culpable of approving unsafe developments.
We've been seeing a lot of mushrooming, high-rises coming up in this country, but if they are not checked, we are going to have, and see very serious disasters in this country. So I would like to urge the ministry to ensure that all the construction works in this country conform to the regulations and the standards.
So try to imagine wengi hizi buildings because kuna check according to NCA, which is the National Construction Authority, and they wrote this confidently kabisa, wakisema over 72% to over 80% of the buildings are unsafe. And we move into these buildings every day and we don't even think about it. And I think the best thing about the human mind is we all walk around with the notion, with the belief that it can't happen to me. And it's a very good survival tactic, because otherwise we'd be super paranoid. We'd never leave the house. But we have to leave the house. And as we leave the house, tunajidanganya that the people who are supposed to keep us safe from buildings falling on us actually care. But they don't. And these people are so stupid that tutapatana wakichukua bribe yao ya hizo floors, anaichukua kwa ground floor ya like a building that's supposed to be 12 floors, that's 16 floors. And this is the point nizataka justice. Najua I wish I was superstitious and I believed in karma, because how would I feel, for example, ningesikia like one of the a county official alikuwa amekuja kuchukua bribe yake. Nacheki, maybe that would be the lesson that would be needed for, but I don't know. So hiyo ni story moja tutaendelea kufuatilia na kucheki if anything happens. Do I think anything is going to happen? No, man, because I've been here before and Kenya will always break your heart. Tunacheki. IKONINI. So the festive season is here. Na LemFi wako na a very great offer kwako. Abaki umesign up ukitumia the promo code IKONINI, and on your first transaction ya $50 ukisend home unabaki umepata a $20 sign up reward. Najua $20 sign up reward on your first transaction of $50 only. Why? Because it's the festive season. Baki umechangamka, tumia promo code IKONINI, ingia LemFi. Why? Upate the most competitive exchange rates. Alafu pia inakuwa ni chap like transactions ziko instant. Changamka haraka LemFi, international payments for everyone. IKONINI. But tukitoka hapo acha tuende ODM. So ODM kulikuwa na hii article, and hii article ilikuwa kwa The Nation. Ilikuwa ni Ida trustees help avert crisis in ODM amid Sifuna fallout. Alafu kasema the board is made up of Senator Oburu Odinga, Timothy Bosire, Amos Wako, Agnes Zani and Joshua Kawino. Alafu story ilikuwa ni nini? Ilikuwa ni story ya kuna vile Sifuna alikuwa anataka kutolewa. So kuna hii part imeandikwa a high level meeting involving influential figures, some from the board and others from outside the party, including Odinga's widow Ida, put an end to the campaign to expel Sifuna, saying it lacks the blessing of ODM power brokers. So kuna shindwa ni nini? Imekuwa ni ile story ya Sifuna amekuwa akibonga, na inasemekana toe the line, and the line that he's supposed to be towing is the line of the broad-based government. So there's been a push to push him out. A few people wamekuwa kitokea wakisema mse hata survive after this long. Amekuwa kitishiwa sana, but yesterday alienda pa kimit alimit Oburu Odinga, and apart from that pia alibaki ameenda kwa memorial service ya Raila ilikuwa na happen at the Karen home, and wakatry kutalk it out. Wacha tucheki vile story ilikuwa reported.
The spouse to former Prime Minister Raila Odinga, Ida Odinga, is calling on ODM officials who are pulling apart to find a common ground of settling their differences. Mrs. Odinga urged the party officials to embrace dialogue and consultations in ironing out the teething issues that have seen the party officials trading barbs. This as she led the family and a section of leaders in paying tribute to the late ODM leader Raila Odinga on his birthday. Brenda Wanga has the details.
The quiet suburb of Karen was today filled with the faces of Kenya's political elite and the family of the fallen enigma of Kenyan politics, the late Raila Odinga. The mood, uncharacteristically somber, was lightened by floral tributes as those who gathered sought to honor the memory of a man who defined Kenyan democracy for decades. Addressing the public for the first time since the burial of the late Raila Odinga, his widow Ida took time to appreciate those who stood with the family during that dark period.
Alafu time wendaga fast, because I remember like this, like it was yesterday. Nakumbuka like the way Mombasa Road ilikuwa closed. Nakumbuka the way airport ilikuwa breached. Nakumbuka hata mseka nani like Eric wa Eotwe akibonga juu ya how that was so bad and how maybe it would have ended up making the Kenyan airport go downgraded. So this all looks like yesterday, but then when you think about it, this was in October. So this is like, in quotes, 3 months ago. And damn, time moves fast. And somehow was a notice tumeanza kusahau. Like this is someone who was very iconic in Kenyan politics, but that's just how life is. Najua when you're alive, shadedi unaweza kusahaulika pole pole.
During that dark period,
on behalf of our family, I wish to thank the President of the Republic of Kenya, His Excellency William Ruto, and the entire government of Kenya that mobilized and deployed at the service of Baba and on his death.
But as a matriarch of the Odinga family stood before the gathering of friends and ODM loyalists, she reminisced on the man she knew best. She described a leader who was firm yet fair, a man who never made a decision in a vacuum.
He ran ODM with firm and fair hands. Raila ran ODM on principle of constant consultations and always referring to the people.
So hizi vitu zote ukicheki zile Aida na bonga juu yake ni kutry kuambia like quell the fire in ODM, because ODM vile nasema so far imekuwa ni kick Sifuna out. Kumekuwa na hiyo campaign and it's been very intense. So I guess they are try kuambia watu tulieni at least, because if this was Raila he'd be consulting instead of just coming up with a decision of umse arushwe nje.
It is my wish that we can preserve the party in his honor as a matter of service to our country.
Ida's sentiments coming in the midst of a simmering dispute and supremacy battles within the Orange Party. Taking the cue, Party Secretary General Edwin Sifuna addressed the growing internal rifts. In a rare moment of conciliation, Sifuna extended an olive branch to his detractors within the party.
So yeah, Sifuna ndiye amekuwa like one of the big culprits. Hata jana nilireact to a video where there was even someone like Matakui wanasema that Sifuna need to be thrown out. Apart from that, of course, najuaga Kaluma amekuwa akisema hivyo, Robert Alai amekuwa akisema hivyo. He come to like the young leaders in quotes, mse kama Kasmuel amekuwa akisema hivyo. So Sifuna has been under a lot of attack, and yeah, I guess aliamua kujitetea.
There is no one in ODM. It doesn't matter how many times, how badly you've insulted me. There is no one in ODM I will not sit down with. I am very prepared. It doesn't matter what has happened between us. As Mama has said, Mimi, I'm going to extend that olive branch, water under the bridge. It doesn't matter what you've said to Sifuna or how badly you feel about me. I am prepared to sit down and iron out our issues. The only reason sometimes it spills out, Mom, because we are also human beings, you know. Sometimes mambo inachemkanga.
Supporting the sentiment, Makadara MP George Aladwa echoed the need for internal dialogue, insisting that the party's dirty linen should be washed away from the public eye.
Yeah, so unachikieta wase kama kina Aladwa na Jeko, yani wase wale wagamezoea that aggressive politics. Unajua that politics that wagaina bow down stories are goons. Na wase at any point kama dialogue ijawak ngumi neza wak. Najua so hizi raya hizo za kawaida. Hizi ni wale wase like if you're doing your politics around them, you have to have a certain level of unajua you have to be careful.
Meanwhile, the Dagoretti South MP John Kiarie, though from across the political aisle, offered a moving tribute to Odinga's enduring legacy of sacrifice.
Tugombane ndani ya nyumba. Kila mtu ana maoni tofauti kwa chama ya kuzungumza, lakini tuzungumze ndani ya chama na ndani ya zile organs zetu za chama.
A man who was a citizen, a model citizen, a nationalist, a pan-Africanist, a universal citizen, and more importantly, a humanist.
Hii ni interesting kutoka from anaitwa nani? KJ, because KJ tulifanyaga interview na yeye hapa. Na KJ watch endo baki umewatch, alibaki amebonga juu ya the campaign na vile aliranigia on an ODM ticket. This was in 2007. Yes. Masaiza Dago, I think your time Dagoretti ilikuwa tu just Dagoretti has one constituency and he ended up in quotes winning, but then kulikuwa na threats. Baki umewachiwe nini? It was a very interesting interview. Kibonga juu ya clash yake na Beth Mugo. It was a very good one. But yeah, kitu ili happen. Jana ilikuwa ni memorial hiyo ya Raila, pia kulikuwa na another one that was held in Mombasa. But yeah, saizi wacha tucheki like what's going to happen next year. Is it going to be like this one? Ama is the memory just going to keep fading and fading till waswabaki wamesahau the man who was known as the Enigma? I don't know. But baki umeniambia ile swali tu nilikuwa nauliza jana. Mnafikiria Sifuna ata last in ODM till 2027? Will this talk with Ida asking people to chill, will that hold for long? Ama it's just postpone the inevitable? Baki umeniambia hapo kwa comments, na kama kawaida, good morning, Iko Nini.